We're kicking off with WWE, who will travel next week to Riyadh for its annual Crown Jewel event, and while a match has yet to be announced for John Cena, he is advertised for the show. Given his issues with the bloodline, many expect a match between Cena and Solo Sikoa, and while that could be the case, we could see some other names added to the bout. At this time, Cena vs. Sikoa is the plan, but according to a source within WWE Creative, Bruce Pritchard has pitched a tag team match pitting Cena and AJ Styles against Solo and Braun Breaker. Pritchard reportedly wants major NXT stars who have the potential to be main eventers on the main roster to have big stage exposure, and fewer stages are bigger than Crown Jewel. It's worth stressing that at this time, no plans have been confirmed yet, but it is believed that Sikoa and Cena will have some kind of altercation on an upcoming SmackDown. Tonight's show will be live, while next week's show will be taped in advance, so if Breaker is being planned, we should find out soon enough. Using Braun would be part of WWE's continued effort to blend NXT in the main roster, as we've seen in recent weeks, with NXT talent appearing on Raw and vice versa. Given that Cena was in Carmelo Hayes' corner when him faced Breaker, the pair have a slight history. And would you like to see this tag match? Sound off in the comments. After Crown Jewel, WWE's next big show will be Survivor Series, and right now, there's a lot of questions about CM Punk's status for the show. Close to a decade after walking out of WWE, there are some who believe Punk's return will happen next month in Chicago, but Punk himself is being coy about his future. Appearing on 760 The Score, Punk addressed the speculation about his WWE return and suggested that if he is at the All-Star Arena, it'll be as a spectator. He said, "They're asking if I'm gonna be there? I think it's sold out. I think tickets are hard to get." Some fans have pointed to references to Punk on TV as a sign of his return, though these often seem to be a case of wrestling fans reading too much into offhand comments. Like Punk said, tickets for Survivor Series have practically sold out, and will he be at the show as a spectator, or is there something else in the works? Only time will tell. On this week's Dynamite, Ric Flair made his debut as Tony Khan's special gift for Sting, and earning a huge ovation from fans in the process. Flair spoke passionately about his friendship with Sting and their wars in the ring, and fans can expect to see more of the Nature Boy in this final chapter of Sting's career. On Wrestling Observer Radio, it was noted that Flair will likely make more appearances alongside Sting as the Icon prepares to retire next year. The report adds, "They're really trying to hotshot as many stars for rating purposes because of the name value and things like that, but by doing that, you're also aging the show, and nostalgia when it comes to TV ratings is usually a short drug, not a long-term thing." It should be stressed that right now, Flair has not been announced for any future appearances, but fans nearly got the chance to see Flair join AEW 2 years ago. The report added that Flair was all set to join AEW back in 2021, shortly after he was granted his requested release from WWE, and would likely have managed his son-in-law, Andrade El Idolo. That was until Vice's Dark Side of the Ring covered the plane ride from hell, in which it alleged Flair forced a female flight attendant to touch his genitals. With fans outraged by the allegations, AEW ultimately opted not to bring Flair in, leaving Andrade without a manager, and his appearances would quickly dry up. After appearing on Dynamite, Flair teased more appearances, saying he's ready for this journey, suggesting that he'll be making appearances until Revolution 2024. What Flair does in these expected future appearances, that isn't known at this time, but expect more of the Nature Boy as we prepare for the end of Sting's legendary career. After years of fans thinking it'd never happen, Sting debuted with WWE in 2014 and at WrestleMania 31 the following year, competed in an epic collision with Triple H. In one of the strangest booking decisions, WWE had Sting lose his debut match in a story that wasn't about him, but really about the WCW-WWE war, which ended in 2001. While the story wasn't really about Sting, Arn Anderson has revealed that Vince McMahon wanted WWE commentators to bury Sting, making it clear that WWE trumps WCW. As to why McMahon would pay surely a huge amount to bring in the icon just to have him be buried, who's to say, but that idea was fortunately nixed for the most part. Road Dogg Jesse James also revealed on his podcast that when Sting was in WWE, McMahon didn't hold a high estimation of him and doubted if fans would care. According to James, McMahon was asking if this guy is getting a reaction, right? As he clearly wasn't sure if fans would be interested in the WCW legend. This attitude from McMahon is a far cry from 2002, when WWE made a play to bring Sting in, as the Stinger recalled during an episode of AEW Unrestricted. He said, "Vince was in the picture once again and I'll never forget it. I'm talking to him on the phone and I said, 'Vince, I'm going to go to TNA.' And Vince says, 'The thought of you and the legacy that you leave behind and you going to TNA is just blah.' He literally said blah. Yeah, and then I'm working for him a few years later." Nowadays, Sting's in AEW, arguably having the best matches he's had in the past 15 years, and we doubt Tony Khan is going blah at the notion that the icon is competing in the ring. With Jey Uso and Roman Reigns now on different brands, the pair probably won't be wrestling anytime soon, but there is no love lost between the Tribal Chief and Main Event Jey. During a recent WWE live event in Cologne, Germany, Jey teamed with Reigns' old rival Sami Zayn and seemingly taunted his cousin in the closing moments of the match. Facing off against JD McDonough and Dominic Mysterio of the Bloodline, Uso got the pin for his team over McDonough, but only after leveling the Irish Ace with a spear. WWE is currently on a tour of Germany, and with this tour coming off the heels of WWE's announcing its first PLE in the country, the fans have been extra excited to see the action. As for Jey Uso, his dream of becoming undisputed WWE Universal Champion came to an end at SummerSlam thanks to Jimmy, but it's clear he hasn't forgotten about Roman Reigns. Jey isn't the only Uso with Roman Reigns on the brain, as during a live event in Laredo, Texas, Jimmy Uso also imitated the Tribal Chief, or at least he tried to. In the main event, L.A. Knight faced Solo Sikoa in a street fight, and with that stipulation, it was only a matter of time before Jimmy got involved. When Knight seemed beaten, Solo held the megastar in prime position for Jimmy to hit a spear of his own, but at the last second, Knight was able to get out of the way. Instead of spearing Knight, Jimmy laid out his younger brother, and it wouldn't be long until Knight got the win to send the Laredo crowd home happy. Roman Reigns will be on this week's SmackDown, where he'll sign the contract to make his match with LA Knight at Crown Jewel official, but with another slip-up by Jimmy, expect Reigns to be in a foul mood on the show. Unlike most, if not all other forms of entertainment, professional wrestling does not have a union, despite the efforts of many in the past. The lack of a union often means that wrestlers are signed to deals with conditions that others in entertainment would not sign up to, and CM Punk would like to see it change. Speaking on 670 The Score, Punk shared his views on a wrestling union while discussing the writer's strike, and despite his hopes, believes a union won't happen. He said, "Wrestlers should 100% have a union. Like, Grip hasn't been able to supplement their income in any other way. And I'll always say this, and I mean it in the most loving way, wrestlers will never unionize because wrestlers are stupid and selfish. It's just the way it is. There's always going to be somebody else around the corner who wants what you have, or possibly just doesn't want you to have what you have. And they will do whatever a promoter wants you to do for less money. And that's unfortunate. You know, the boys never stick together." It's hardly a surprise that wrestlers are hesitant to unionize, as in 2020, Zelina Vega was released from her WWE contract mere minutes after she publicly declared her support for unionization. While Vega was brought back, her sudden departure was a warning to all that even considering a union won't be tolerated, at least as long as Vince McMahon is around. When WWE re-split its roster in 2016, the company once again began hosting brand-exclusive premium live events, but have since returned to joint-branded shows. Recently, WWE introduced GMs for Raw and SmackDown, with Adam Pearce taking the red brand, while Nick Aldis is running Team Blue, but this isn't a sign of more changes to come. According to BWE, there was recent discussions within WWE about reverting to brand-exclusive events, but Triple H made it clear he wasn't a fan of the idea. On Twitter, the consensus among fans was that Triple H was right, with one fan arguing that Raw and SmackDown don't have enough star power to host exclusive PLEs. While NXT hosts its own events, it isn't the plan for Raw and SmackDown, but it appears that the WWE Universe is grateful that Triple H opposed the idea. Next year, WWE will host the 37th annual SummerSlam, and the biggest party of the summer could be coming to Cleveland, Ohio. Fightful Select reports that Cleveland is the frontrunner in the bidding for SummerSlam 2024, but it's unclear what other cities are also in the running. Cleveland is no stranger to hosting WWE premium live events, with the first being Invasion in 2001, and the city would go on to host Survivor Series 2004 and Unforgiven 2008. Cleveland has also hosted TLC 2014, as well as Fastlane in 2016 and 2019, and don't be surprised if C-Town hosts SummerSlam next year. In late 2021, Jon Moxley made the brave and difficult decision to enter himself into rehab, and recently the former AEW World Champion spoke about the bumpy road to sobriety. Speaking to The Messenger, Moxley revealed that keeping alcohol free has been much more difficult than he first thought, and more difficult than self-help books made it out to be. He explained, "I would love to give you like a positive self-help book type answer or something about f***ing sunshine and rainbows and fairies and shit, but that's not really reality. It's been good on the whole. It's been good. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. But you know, you'll pay for it on the other side. Your choices you make in life, you f*** up your brain chemistry, it takes a lot of time for your body and the physical damage you've done to yourself to regulate itself." Despite these issues, Moxley described himself as the luckiest guy in the world and called entering rehab a tremendous help, though admitted to being envious of those who don't face sobriety challenges. Moxley also thanked his 2-year-old daughter Nora for motivating him to live up to a standard, as he explained, "Whatever I do, whatever choices I make, she's gonna see that, or see that eventually as she gets older." Nora isn't the only special lady in Moxley's life, as he also made sure to thank his wife Renee Paquette for, as he believes, saving his life. "Without Renee, I couldn't even tell you what my life would have ended up like. It's probably the most fortunate thing to ever happen. God knows I could be buried in the desert in Vegas right now." Moxley is approaching his 2-year milestone of sobriety, and while his risk-taking in the ring may indicate otherwise, the former AEW World Champion refuses to take his life for granted, as he said, "I plan on being here for a long fucking time and accomplishing a lot more. I feel like I've barely scratched the surface of what I'm capable of." With Moxley recently being declared concussion-free, he'll soon have time to show what he's capable of in the ring, and we'd like to wish him the best in his ongoing journey in sobriety. Since coming to WWE, Logan Paul has repeatedly proven his skills in the ring, but there are some who have questioned whether his impressive physique has been enhanced. With Paul having plenty of detractors, it's no surprise that some have accused him of taking steroids, especially given his recent boxing match with Dylan Dennis. On Twitter, Paul shared that he has gotten his test results back from the Voluntary Anti-Doping Association and revealed that his body is steroid-free. He said, "I got my result back from VADA. I want to address the steroid allegations before you see any news. I want to confess that I've been taking a lot of Prime Energy and putting it into my mouth and then swallowing it. And that gives me a good boost for my workouts, which makes me have a good physique. The results are negative. Haters, you're gonna have to keep trying. No performance-enhancing drugs, like I said. Good luck next time, though, dorks." Logan Paul will challenge Rey Mysterio for the US title at Crown Jewel after the Maverick called out the Hall of Famer following his win over Dennis. It remains to be seen whether Paul captures his first WWE title next week, but win, lose, or draw, Paul's physique will be completely his own when he heads to Riyadh. On next week's Raw, DIY will face off against Imperium's Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci, marking the first time Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa have teamed in years. After having their reunion planned for the summer nixed by Vince McMahon himself, fans are excited for DIY's reunion, which will come with some new entrance music. Appearing on a Twitch stream, Gargano confirmed that new music is coming on Monday and said it has a very cool vibe that both he and Ciampa are pumped about. Gargano described the theme as something fresh and something new, and hopes that years from now, fans will be talking about the new theme song set to debut on Raw. When Eric Young was quietly rehired by WWE in 2022, fans immediately expected a Sanity reunion with Nikki Cross, which would likely see new members added to the group. The faction was a hit with fans in NXT years ago, but struggled on WWE's main roster prior to Young's 2020 release, and Eric Young blames Vince McMahon for these issues. On House of Wrestling, Young didn't mention McMahon by name, but made it clear that there was someone on top at the time who only cared about what they thought. He explained, The truth is everyone understood it except for one person, and the unfortunate truth is the only person that matters is that one person. So it doesn't matter your opinion, it doesn't matter the fans' opinions, it doesn't matter. After not appearing at all following his 2022 return, Young asked to be let go earlier this year and has made it clear that he couldn't take orders from McMahon going forward. Young has returned to Impact Wrestling, where he's been part of factions like Team Canada and Violent by Design, but EY still blames McMahon for sanity not working on WWE's main roster. Earlier this year, Fuego del Sol's contract with AEW was not renewed, and since then, the former All Elite star has made his name outside of the promotion. Del Sol started off hot in AEW, but his momentum quickly cooled down after that, and his exit came after he tried to make a massive change to his character. In a video from his YouTube channel, Del Sol said that in his final message to Tony Khan, he pitched to be unmasked and change his character completely, as he knew he needed to shake things up in a huge way. Unfortunately for Del Sol, he was cut from AEW shortly after, and Khan never shared his thoughts on the idea. Perhaps if Khan had taken to the idea, Del Sol would still be with AEW today, but whatever the future holds for him, it won't be as an all-elite wrestler. During last week's AEW Rampage, Rocky Romero faced the debuting Místico, and it was the former Sin Cara who'd get the 2-1 victory in their unique matchup. Fans were excited to see Místico show his talents in an AEW ring, and during a Wrestling Observer Radio, Romero revealed that he was the one who helped bring Místico to the promotion. Romero explained that despite the hostility of CMLL and AAA, the latter of whom having worked with AEW, he was able to get the ball rolling, and said that Tony Khan was a big fan of what he saw from Místico. Romero added that he hopes to get the Forbidden Door open further for CMLL, AEW, and New Japan talent to work together, and we may not have seen the last of Místico on AEW TV. For some time, AEW has been seriously struggling with its attendance, as photos of massive names speaking to dozens upon dozens of empty seats have become a weekly occurrence. This week, Dynamite came to Philadelphia, and it appears that the tide is turning, at least according to fan-captured photos at the show. Thanks to wrestling correspondent Muscleman Malcolm, we can see that this week's Dynamite was a packed show in the Licoris Center, which can hold up to 10,000 people. This packed house is especially interesting, considering that the venue wasn't much smaller than what AEW usually goes for, but was clearly able to attract more fans. Now the big question is whether AEW can keep this momentum going with this Saturday's Collision, which is typically the worst attended out of AEW's 3 shows. A recent Collision in Salt Lake City saw just 2,245 tickets sold for a venue capable of hosting 12,000, but for this week's Dynamite, there was no photo of throngs of empty seats. Last month, WWE held its first talent cuts of the TKO era, with many notable names being cut, including Dolph Ziggler, Shelton Benjamin, and Mustafa Ali, among others. Tegan Nox wasn't one of the names cut from WWE, but when speaking on the Wild On podcast, the Welsh superstar said she was 100% convinced she'd be receiving the dreaded call. Being released wouldn't have been especially hard for Nox, who was cut from WWE a few years ago and brought back last year, but has only recently started receiving regular TV time. Nox didn't compete this week due to a reported injury, and while she still has a job, it's clear she's not taking anything for granted right now. And we're ending with Becky Lynch, who doesn't have a fear of losing her job, but did lose the NXT Women's title to Lyra Valkyria at Halloween Havoc Night 1. Reacting to her loss, Lynch took to Instagram to say that the NXT era has ended and is immensely proud of what she did during her run as NXT Women's Champion. Lynch is pleased that she was able to help up-and-comers and believes the future is in good hands with Valkyria as the champion. Becky Lynch's 42-day reign saw her successfully defend the title 8 times before losing to Valkyria in the 9th, and it's now time for her to prove why she's the man solely on Raw.